Hi, Emma. How are you?
Hello! Can you see me okay?
I can see you. I'm a little darker than usual because I am not where my lights and things are. I'm actually traveling. But you doing okay?
Yeah,
How's our
yeah, we're doing great.
How's Eric doing?
Eric's being Eric. He's saying, hi, Mama!
Hi, sweetie. So
He's saying, how are you enjoying the fresh air?
exactly.
He's pretending to be a tree.
Oh, because we're camping. That's the deal. So he's probably picking up on that. Well,
I think
oh, go ahead.
he says he's been with you.
Oh, goody. He always
He says he's been with you the whole time. So he says he loved camping.
He always did. Oh
He
my God,
loved
he
around it.
gets so filthy. He'd play with the campfire, and all sorts of stuff. Kid loved fire like his mama. Anyway, to go on, I understand that Eric wants to bring forth Margaret Thatcher. That was your choice and his choice. Do you think we can do that?
Yeah, he says it might be interesting with the whole politics going on right now. Might be interesting to get a different perspective.
Exactly. Exactly. So go fetch him, boy.
She's here.
What does she look like?
She kind of looks like the way I remember her seeing on TV when I was a little girl. So she does look older, big hair.
Yeah.
Her energy feels very closed, so hopefully she'll be willing to open up for us.
Well, what do you think, Maggie? Or Margaret or Miss Thatcher? Prime Minister Thatcher, Lady Thatcher. What would you like me to call you?
She says, you can call me whatever you want.
All right, I like Maggie. All right, well let me ask you some questions. Is that okay with you?
She says yes. She says it's a great honor to be a part of your mission to spread knowledge, love, compassion, and transparency to the world, she said.
Wow, that means a lot coming from you. I appreciate that. Well, my first question is, was it important for you to come from such humble beginnings?
She says it was because it was a big part of my life. It was a part of who I was. Um, she's making me feel like she's kind of showing me a picture. She was raised in a pretty strict environment. She's saying she was very, religion was very important in the family. And so abiding by rules and regulations was always a way to almost justify what she did and justify everything in her life. So she was very much in being consistent with rules and regulations and not having any way of parting of that. Okay. That was how she saw it, and that is how it would be. So yes, it was important. It was important in my mission on Earth.
Okay. Next question. I have a total of 26 questions, so just bear that in mind. Tell us about your relationship with Ronald Reagan.
She says it was a friendship. She says. It was not just business. She says it was a closer friendship where she had an opportunity to, it's almost like sharing different views. She says even from the arguments, because she's making me feel like they could get into really big arguments about certain things, about certain perspectives, about certain choices and where they would go, because she did want a good cooperation with the United States. And it feels like, although they were personally friends, they could also go into extreme heated up arguments when it came to business. So it was kind of a love-hate relationship, she says.
Okay. But they respected each other in spite of their disagreements.
Oh yeah, so there was a lot of respect for one another, and also a lot of consideration. Although I did have my views, and I did want Britain to be on top, I will not hide from that. They did have kind of a mutual idea on who the two superpowers should be. And they kind of work together in certain things, she says. In, political decisions, they kind of, it's almost like they would make agreements among one another and not tell the rest. And then just kind of make it feel like it was just something that came up. So they would discuss things in close quarters and come up with solutions or come up with ideas to achieve what they were initially trying to achieve. And being in power was being a powerful nation and being a powerful economic nation was for both really, really important. And then also she's talking about the Cold War, that their cooperation in that resulted into, I guess, ending the Cold War. And so, again, that just strengthened the relationship between the two countries.
That's awesome. Well, what was your biggest disagreement about? Just name one. There's probably many, but what was a biggie?
It was about the way people in Britain hold on to traditions. They hold on to things being almost like steady, like they don't like changes. They like to continue traditions and rules and regulations that have been for centuries. Okay. There's not a lot of room to move. Americans, on the other hand, she says, they have a different idea of achieving things. Everything in Britain is based on their past, on their achievements from the past. Anything in America is based on their philosophies. It's based on what you think you can achieve. While in Britain, it's about conserving what we've already achieved. Oh, wow. So the difference in that was to me was inspiring, because Americans didn't go about, oh, well, they did that in the past, so we need to stick to that. Americans had a different way, she says, of viewing the world, and whatever they could think of, they would try and achieve it. So they had this philosophy of following their thoughts, their dreams, and their intuition, while British were, it was always about following and sustaining what was already built throughout the years and not changing that.
Do you believe in American exceptionalism? I mean, we are kind of a different country because of the way we were founded, the way we escaped persecution, and the type of people who populated the Americas were adventuresome and dedicated to their religion and so on.
She says America is different because the foundation of the American people is really based on so many nationalities with so many different dreams and so many different views on life. It has become this blend of the world. You guys are a blend of the world, and so the view and the dreams and the hopes and the achievements that you guys long for and that you guys strive for are different than the rest of the world. So in that aspect, you guys are it's almost like the whole universe in a specific area. You are a variety of everything, and that can be enlightening, she says.
All right, well, let me, I'm going to move a little faster here if we can, because I've only got 3 out of the 26 questions done. Well, actually, one of them I don't even have. Are you and Reagan still together? Are you working together in some way? Just briefly. Please.
We still have contact, but we're not in any kind of group dealing with people, not yet, she says.
What was your relationship like with the royal family, and what do you think about them now?
The relationship was not close. It was more strictly business. There was always been respect from my end. That is just how you are raised in Britain. There's always respect towards the Queen. The way it is turning now, I do think that it's going, when I look at the future, she says, of Britain and the royal house, it is going to go more into a more modern approach. Into a more compassionate approach where the distance between royalty and people will not be so great. People will come closer together to the royal house, and so that's where we're heading to, and that looks very promising and very good to see.
Awesome. Now, do you still believe in conservative ideals now? Now that you have a different perspective, a broader perspective of things?
She says my spiritual views of what I did in politics have changed. She says, as a person, if I look at it from my human perspective, I was, being closed to other opinions and letting my ego and the fear of not being able to make an impression in life really led to loneliness, and it led to a feeling of abandonment in my later life. I was my strong mind and not willing to be flexible and righteous when it came to my opinions, even when I could see that it wasn't working out. It really led me to ideas. It led me to a life of regret, let's just say it that way. It led me to a life of regret, and it led me to a loss of even loved ones. Well,
let me rephrase it. Are you more of a liberal or conservative now? In other words, do you believe in the liberal ideas of social justice, the government taking care of people, or do you believe in the conservative ideal of individualism and having faith in the individual to be responsible for their life?
She says, I now believe that love and compassion are the only way to go, and that so governments need to take care of people in any way possible.
Okay. Now, you were for gay rights very early on, and this made you quite the controversial figure. Tell us more about how you developed these principles and the headwinds you must have fought.
Well, she says, I had extreme views on a lot of things, but when it came to women's rights, when it came to discriminating people for any reason whatsoever, it kind of hit me in a spot where I could relate to. Because over the years, I had to fight and struggle and battle my way into a position where I was being respected, where I was being accepted as one of the men. So I had a close connection to feeling not accepted, to feeling not being worthy of doing what I really wanted to do. And so in that aspect, I kind of grew also the feeling of connection to anybody who was considered different as not being a good. Also, I believed that God, that we needed to have compassion for everybody, that we needed to have
well, let me interrupt you, because
as a child of God, he says, she sees everybody as a son of God.
But compassion is not always giving people what they need from the government. And you yourself said that the problem with socialism, in other words, the government taking care of everybody, is that eventually you run out of other people's money. And that does happen. Now the producer class is shrinking and the recipient class is growing. So, and I kind of disagree with you in the fact that I think it's not compassionate to enslave people in government, entitlement programs so that they don't work, they get everything paid for. I don't think it shows that you have faith in the human being to be on their own. Yes, I do think there has to be a safety net. You have to help those who can't take care of themselves, obviously. But what do you say to that? Don't slap me. I mean, there's different forms of compassion, in other words. Tough love is a compassion, too.
Exactly. She says, compassion is not just giving everybody what they want without them earning it. Right. Compassion means that you are giving people who are in a bad situation, who are not feeling good, who seem to be financially not stable enough to sustain themselves. Give them the tools and the opportunities to improve in that, to get better, to have guidance, to get them through the debt, to have guidance to get them in a more mental state, a better mental state. It's about, compassion is about supporting each other in where their need is, so they can then live independently and be a part of a successful society and actually contribute to society. So it's not just about giving without seeing any results. It's about giving with the intention to reintegrate those people in society so they can be a part of society and they can add value to the economy as well. So it's about seeing where the problem is and then trying to help them overcome that.
So you're kind of a fiscal conservative, social moderate. In other words, I would call you a compassionate conservative now, where you have to respect the rights of the individual and you have to have faith in them, but you also have to help them when they need it the most.
Yeah, she says, just with everything that is going on in the world right now, if you look at terrorism, there's a reason why those people are willing to sacrifice themselves for some belief that is not right. The reason they are doing that is because they have nothing to live for. They don't have a job. They don't see a future for themselves. They don't have people to care for. And so they are lost in a society that is not helping them, that is not supporting them in what their needs are. And so these people who radicalize them, they take care of them, they support them, they give them money, and that's how they get lured into this. These people are not the ones to be blamed for the attacks, but really society is blamed for not taking care of their needs. They need to be supported, they need to find a job, they need to have a future in mind. When people lose hope and they don't have a vision of the future, she says, then they get lost and they look for the easiest way out, which is somebody who's promising them everything they ever wanted, somebody who's giving them money, who is lurking them to do cruel, horrible things in return for what they are looking for that, that bondness, that friendship, for the money, for the promise of, being forever and ever in grace. Yeah, so that's the problem.
So next question. When you eliminated the free milk in school, you received so much criticism, and I know you were nicknamed Margaret Thatcher, the milk snatcher. Would you do that again? Take away free milk? I mean, there's only so much money a government has. Obviously, you have to cut where you can cut, but what do you say?
She says, let me make it clear that everything I did actually started from a point of view of trying to reduce the debts that the country was in. And the only way we could do that is by cutting certain things, right? She says, I made decisions, very, very hard decisions, that other people could not make. Other people were not strong enough to say, hey, I'm sorry, but you're going to have to bring your own milk. Yeah. Other people were not strong enough to be that. But in order for us to sustain our economy, we needed to cut back extremely hard. And yes, there's a lot of things I regret. She says, yes, there's a lot of things that I went too far in. But it was all for, in my mind, it was for the better of the country. It was for us to sustain us, to keep Britain afloat. And as you can tell now, when you look at Europe, she says, again, the European Union is making cuts everywhere, in every country. They are trying to sustain themselves. They're cutting fundings, and they're cutting, in healthcare. They're cutting everywhere in order to, again, sustain the economy, because the economy has had a lot of debts, and there has been a lot of bumps and bruises in the economy. And so, in a way, they're doing the exact same thing that I did then. Only because I was a woman, and because they saw me as this awful mother who would take milk from children, it really was. It was added to the fire that was already burning before I came into office. This was already going on before I even was in office. Yeah. There were already strikes, and there was already malcontentment, and there was already things happening before I even became prime minister. So I was thrown into a situation where London was on fire, Britain was on fire, and I needed to kind of, cut cords and make really tough decisions. And I still stand behind my decisions. I wish I would have maybe done certain things differently, maybe with some more compassion. I wish so many people would have not gotten hurt or even killed during the riots. I do feel regret for that and remorse for those people who were left behind. But I still stand behind the fact that every now and then we do have to make decisions that are not fun to do, but that will be in the greater benefit of the global thing.
Well,
yeah.
You're going to make cuts. Somebody's going to be unhappy. No matter what cuts they are, somebody's going to get pissed. All right, on to something that's
She says, think of it this way. If they were so unhappy with me, yeah, there were a lot of riots and there were a lot of people unhappy, but if they were so unhappy with me, why did they leave me in office for more than 11 years?
Yeah, that's right. I thought you were great. Now, what do you think about this is along the same lines, our growing entitlement class, and what should we do about it? There are so many people who are without a job, who are supported by the government, who are able-bodied. Not all of them, but many of them are able-bodied. And, I'm worried that we are going to run out of other people's money, as you say. So what should we do? But you know what politicians do best? They buy votes and say, we'll promise you this entitlement. Vote us into power.
She says, the way I see it now, if I would have been in my human form, I probably would have raised taxes. Not then, but the way I see the world now, I probably would have raised the taxes on whoever makes the most money, so we can all take care of each other. But the only solution we really have, if I look at it from my spiritual perspective, is people helping each other. Don't count on governments to help you guys. Don't count on one leader to fix your problems. Start by helping each other. Start by donating. Start by, if you see a person who's in need, see what his need is exactly. What is it that you need? Is it maybe a roof over your head? Is it food? Do you need some guidance? Are you mentally ill? See and dare to ask the question of what do you need and how can I help you? Does that mean you have to give away everything you have? No, it does not. It just needs compassion from your end, and try and help in little bits here and there. And if we would all do that together as a global, on a global scale, then I can guarantee you all the problems will be fixed really fast, and the mentality of people would completely change into being self-absorbed, into being egotistical, and a lot of people are driven by power, by fame, by, hey, I want to be seen, I want to do this. If we could turn that around, then you will see a whole different world, and that's where we're headed. I want people to understand we're headed that direction. It's going to take time, but we will eventually get into that direction. And unfortunately, the way that the politics and the way that the world is shifting right now, the way everything feels uncomfortable and feels not right. There's a reason for that feeling. There is a reason for that feeling, because it will force us to get to stay in a discomfort, so we can find comfort within ourselves and understand that the only solution to fix it is really coming from ourselves. It's the way that we see the world and the way that we believe we should succeed in life changes.
It seems like we used to take care of each other more, including through churches, but also as communities, as individual families. But the government, that now it's like, the government will take care of that person or whatever. It's almost like that.
Yeah,
And
people,
one point
people have distanced themselves from one another. He says it's not just government. It's a lot of different things. It's also technology, television. People used to, before there was television, people would go home from work and they'd go hang out with their people around them. They would have socialized gatherings. They would meet at the pub. There was always somebody there that could listen to your problem. You can vent to, and people would say, hey, let me help you. That is how it used to be. Now we have so much technology, we're more interested in what's on TV or what's on our computer that we don't socialize anymore. We don't hear people's problems anymore. And all we're holding on to is that picture that we see in media or that we see in movies of that's what our life should look like. It's not like that. Come back together, find a way to communicate to one another and share and vent. Sometimes we just need to talk to somebody and let it off our chest. And the problem is fixed just by talking to somebody. So that's what we need to re-engage in, is communication with one another.
I agree. Now they say that, I agree that the rich should pay more, obviously, and they do. But they say that even if you tax them at 100% rate, it would not take care of either the debt or deficit. So there's only so much you can do until, like you said, you run out of people's money. So
she says in time it would, and she says the best example for that is if you look up north. She says if you look at Denmark, they are very highly taxed. The more you make, the more you get taxed, the less you make. So what that results in is that a doctor, a lawyer, anybody that's an actor before, I was going to talk Dutch to you. An actor, for example, she says makes the same amount of money as a cleaning lady, as somebody who works at McDonald's. That's what it ends up with. And nobody seems to complain about it over there because they get so many benefits from this that they live in a stable environment. They don't have to worry about, I lose my job, because they get 4 years of their continuous income by the government. And in those 4 years, you have time to find a new job. So there are no worries in that. So it is possible to do that. It just, people always go, my money, it's mine, I made it. That's what we need to get rid of, that idea. If other countries can do it, and they are, considered one of the happiest countries in the world, there is a reason for that. And although they pay so many taxes, they're still considered to be the happiest countries in the world. You need to see.
I don't practice anymore, but if I were a young doctor with $300,000 worth of student loan in debt, I would be pissed if I got the exact same income as the mailman who has absolutely no debt. I mean, there are some occupations for which you sacrifice years and years and years of education, and you spend a lot of money on it. And the overhead of being a doctor, for example, is huge. So what do you say to that?
Let me pick into that. She says in Denmark, education is completely free. Okay. When you go to university, you receive 500 euros or 500, whatever their thing is, per month to actually become a doctor. So you get paid to go to university. You get paid to go to college. There are no loans. There are no debts. Education is completely 100% free. You do not even have to pay for books. Everything is paid for by the government. So in that aspect, it doesn't matter. They get raised with the idea that everybody is equal because of that. There is no, oh, I'm going to become a doctor because I want to make a lot of money, because a lot of people do for that
Oh, you
reason.
should never
You
go
know,
into being a doctor for
you,
that reason. It needs to be a
oh yeah,
calling. Yeah.
Eric goes, hell yeah. But some people do. And so therefore you also create people who are doing their jobs out of love, not
Right.
for the financial.
That's
And
good.
so you're creating so much stability. But she says we'll go into that in another time.
Okay. Now, would your policies work in today's situation, or would they be less effective, given the fact that we are now a global economy and perhaps due to other factors? Would your policies that you practiced before, when you were a human, would they work in today's society?
She says no, because back then it was really all about, all countries were still very individual. There was no unions, there was no European Union, there was no, she says nowadays it is more about, politics are more on a global scale. Everybody seems to be connected somehow, making business with one another. So they're now aware that whatever country is in need, that will have an effect to the other countries and therefore to the global economy. So there's a lot more consideration, there's a lot more sensitivity and cooperation between one another. What I was trying to do was just preserve Britain, and just with those ideas in mind, just to preserve, our superbness, let's just call it that way, she says, in how the world would see us. We wanted the world, and Britons are still a little bit like that. We want to look superior. We're very proud of our country. We always have been, and we've overcome so much as a country, as a people. And so we always want to make sure that we look strong to the outside world and we look powerful to the outside world. But in reality, Britain is not doing so well right now. So hopefully in future terms that'll get better.
All right, so real quickly, what do you feel about Trump and his policies, and what advice would you give him? Be gentle.
um, she says, well, I don't really see him as a leader. However, from a spiritual perspective, it is necessary that he is in office.
Why?
She says he's going to bring people into a state of discomfort. He's going to make very clear to people that separation, discrimination, things like that are not to be taken lightly. And so he's going to bring the world kind of in an imbalance. It's almost like she's trying to say that economy-wise, it's going to have an effect on the economies. It's going to have an effect on relationships between several countries. And so the American people are going to start realizing that, it doesn't seem to matter who we put in office. It all seems to end up the same. We're not happy. Things aren't changing the way we want to change. And so they're going to start realizing that the change will really start within themselves, that in order for them to change everything, they're going to have to start working together. And so that's where it's going to lead up to. So he's really here to take us into a stage in our lives of very bad discomfort, but in that aspect, he's playing his role very well. So he's doing exactly what he's supposed to do according to the universe.
Do you have any advice for him?
Yes, start listening to the people around you.
Okay. Now, what do we do about the sticky wicket we're in with North Korea and Iran?
when it comes to North Korea,
That dude's
she
crazy.
says the leader of North Korea, when we look at him from a spiritual perspective, is really acting out of fear. He is terrified of being seen as weak. He is terrified of his own weakness. He will threaten a lot, but it doesn't feel like he's ever going to actually do anything. So
what should we do? Just
it's really about continuing to showing him that you are not afraid, that he cannot intimidate you or any of us. And by doing so, it actually feeds his insecurities even more.
Poor guy. What about Iran?
Yeah.
What do we do about them and the nuclear program and the nuclear deal?
He says that is something that we do need to keep a close eye on. It feels like,
Who are you?
Man, I'm still not over this cough. I think I might need to go to a throat specialist.
Yeah.
She says that the concern is the nuclear weapons, and the concern is who will be who has access to them. So she's almost talking about, terrorists being able to will be able to access them, and then we have a situation. But she's saying that the world is keeping a very close eye on it. So not to worry about it. They will be able, if something does happen, they will see it.
So what do we do about them?
She's saying they already are taking action. It feels like they're already attacking certain places. So, but it feels like this is all hush hush. So,
okay. So
there's nothing much. She says there's nothing much. It just feels like keeping it under control.
Okay.
Keeping it sustained until human development, until people start changing the way they see the world and the way they help one another. So
okay, good.
It just feels like containment is the key. We'll never be able to fully erase it, to fully destroy it.
What about the Middle East?
She says one more thing. She says when it comes to terrorism, she says it's important to not feed terrorism. She's saying they live off publicity. They live off the fear of spreading the word. So not sharing those horrible images that they send us, not even paying attention to them, not feeding them with energy that that keeps them going is going to be key. So stay away from those pictures. They shouldn't even show them in the news. It's sad for the people who are who that it happens to. But if they would not even pay attention to them, they would stop doing it because it wouldn't make any sense. It would never come out anyway. So we're feeding it by putting it in the news, by putting it on the web. So stop
blocking their internet. Blocking their social media from coming to.
You're giving oxygen, she says. You're giving oxygen to it.
Anything else about the Middle East we can do? Is there ever any hope that we could actually give them what they need as far as feeling productive and needed and valued? Help their economy? I mean, it's not our job to rebuild the world. We don't have enough money to even take care of ourselves. But is that...
She's just making me feel like there's going to be lots of strangers in the future, even in the Balkans, those areas. There's going to be new ruling over that, and it just feels like there's going to be a lot of changes coming, which will affect the terrorist attacks and the terrorists in some kind of way. So she just says it can go, it can still go in different directions, but the global the direction it's going in is either way is positive.
Okay.
It just feels like the amount of inflammation, she calls it, the amount of fire and the amount of death and destruction it's going to be can still go either way.
Oh, okay.
She's not. She says it's complicated.
I didn't know it's very complicated. I mean, how do you fight it on the ideological front, etc.? Now,
Like healing needs to come from within, and
yeah.
it's been like that for centuries. She says war has become part of their DNA.
Yeah.
They don't know anything else.
Mm.
So it's going to take us, Europe and the U.S. and the rest of the world to show them what peace looks like. How does it feel when everybody's happy? If we can be that example for them, then they'll be interested in seeing, hey, well, those guys seem to be doing fine. Why can't we? So it's about being an example. Like I said, she says it starts with one person and it spreads.
Oh, I hope so. Now, did being a woman present itself as a very significant obstacle in your becoming the formidable leader you were?
She says, oh, yes. And it was a big battle, and a lot of tears were combined with it in order for me to get where I needed to get. It's almost like I had to switch my way of thinking of a woman to a man's world. I had to almost become partially man in order for them to see me as an equal. So it was not an easy road.
I can imagine. All right, let's talk about some spiritual matters. For example, what do you think was your greatest accomplishment?
Drinking lemon ginger tea.
Oh, good, that should help.
Well, she says, okay, so regardless of how my leadership methods and views were received, I still stayed a pioneer for us women in stepping up and taking the lead. So she says, although I might not fit into the new way of looking at leadership, which is more cooperative and based on support and equality, I had to do it in the way it was done at that time.
Okay.
So in that, I think I did open up the world's the political world to women.
That's good.
I also thought that I taught the world to speak up for what you believe is right, because I did believe this was right and this was the right way to go. And I showed people that you need to take risks in life and that you needed to be persistent. So never to give up. I was when I had my eye on something, that's where I went. So I never gave up. I never let anybody tell me I couldn't do it or I wasn't allowed to do it. So never give up, speak your mind, and take risks in life, because not everybody is willing to do that, but if you do, it will make your life worthwhile.
Didn't they call you the Iron Lady or something like that? I think something like that. So that makes sense. What was your spiritual mission?
She says it was about understanding that not being able to let go of control, so always wanting to be in control. She says you have to understand, it started with love, turned into ambition, and then my ambition turned into ego. Oh. Once I had the power, I didn't want to let that go. And so I became into some state of mind of whatever I think, that's how it's going to be. I didn't want to listen to anybody. There was no compromising. My will was law. Okay. And so when I look at my life, it was really about understanding that ego and control led me to a life of regret and remorse. I neglected my family. My children in later age didn't really want a relationship with me. I was hated, so I had to constantly be protected when I went outside. Even as an older lady, I was constantly under protection. I couldn't go where I wanted to go freely. Everything had to be arranged. So I really led a very close life afterwards, almost like a hermit that was locked up. So yeah. So from my lesson was from ego and from trying to control everything. It just leads to negativity. It leads to regrets and remorse, and it actually leads to the opposite of what you're trying to do. I was trying to provide for my family. I was trying to make everybody happy and make Britain into a place where everybody could be happy. But instead, it slammed me in my face. And it really went the opposite. The opposite. I was so much into my work that my children hated me for not being with them. I was neglecting my husband, and the people turned against me as well. So it was just it was a life of two opposites.
Well, can you put in one sentence what your spiritual mission was?
Letting go of control.
Okay, letting go of control. And do you think you accomplished that? It sounds like you didn't.
Yes, I did, she says, because at the end of my life, I had no control over anybody or anything.
Oh, I see. Okay. So you were here to learn that. What were you here to teach? Besides the things you've already about having your voice heard and equal rights for women and others and things like that. Anything else you were here to teach?
She says, discipline yourself to do what you know is right and important. Although it might be difficult, it will lead you to personal growth and achievements. But she says, but be aware of your intentions and your thoughts behind your actions, for they will determine who you are as a person, and they will determine your destiny. She says, what we think we become, so base your thoughts and intentions on love and compassion, for love will always prevail.
All right, because your intention was initially love, but your intentions behind your actions changed and became
love turned into power.
Yeah. What do you think? You talk about regrets a lot. What do you think your biggest regret? What is your biggest regret?
I couldn't fix what I wanted to fix. She says I couldn't fix the country and I couldn't fix my family.
Oh. Well, can you share a life that you think most influenced your one as Maggie Thatcher?
She smiles. She says, well, my next life, in which I'm already born right now, I'm already back on Earth. I'm a little boy, she says. I'm actually a Buddhist monk who will turn into a guru. So it's going to be all about healing people, restoring balance, and restoring unity, but in a completely different way. Instead of going into politics and trying to restore humanity and love with financial ways, with trying to get everything stable economy-wise. This is actually going to be healing and finding that balance based on pure love and understanding. So I'm going into a completely different direction this time. I want to experience both extremes.
What are you doing now in your afterlife? Your work in the afterlife? Do you have any work, or are you just chilling?
Yeah, and not right now. I haven't yet thought of what I really want to do in my spiritual form. So I'm still kind of adjusting to everything, she says, and I'm just kind of exploring and going around and seeing things, and I'm kind of eavesdropping in people's minds to see where everybody's headed, and then I'm going to decide where I will take it from there. I haven't decided yet.
Okay, what do you think about my boy, Erik?
She says, I love him. He is so straightforward, just like I was. I would just say what I think, and he is exactly the same. Only he really, everything comes from this love and understanding that we're all different, and that the flawed ones are actually the most beautiful ones. So that's not how I saw it in life. So I learned a lot from him, and he is a very courageous person.
Yeah. I'm proud of you, Erik. Well, what do you think about the state of humanity now? We've touched upon it a lot, but is there anything else you want to say about that?
She says, I just want people to know that things will be headed in the right direction.
Good.
I don't want people to give up hope. Never give up hope, because we are going to see that light, and it is coming. So start with you.
Okay. Do you have any other messages or advice for us?
She says, for now, that'll be it. And Erik is actually asking her a question.
I was going to ask Erik if he wanted to ask a question. And then, Emma, if you want to ask a question, go ahead. Then we'll be finished.
Okay. Erik is saying, what's up with the stiffness of the Brits?
Uh-oh.
Why are you stiff?
Stiff upper lip. What?
She's laughing, though. She thinks it's funny. She says it's just part of our tradition. It's just who we are, she says. We like things to be neat, clean, and proper.
Anything else, Erik, that you want to ask?
Yeah, he's saying, he's talking about how there was also a lot of terrorism going on at that time in Britain. He's talking about the IRA, I think.
Okay.
From the Irish or something. And he's saying, what was your policy then? Is it still the same as when you see it now? Like, he's asking her what she did at that time with terrorism, how she tried to fix it. She said, well, it was hard because it feels like these people were hard to catch. They had a lot of help. So the only thing she says that we could do is, because she's making me feel like a couple of times there was a bomb, like even her hotel room, there was a bomb thrown into it. So that she almost died there together with her husband, Dennis, she says. And then, Parliament was attacked as well, which was just now the case as well, I've heard.
Yeah.
She says, so the only thing we could do is the next day we would be standing right there again, continuing our lives. The only thing we could do is show that we are not afraid of them, that we cannot let fear control our actions when things like this happen, because that's exactly what they're looking for. And if we become scared and we stop continuing our normal daily lives, then they win. They get fed again. We're feeding their ego again. So showing them that they cannot hurt us, showing them that the only thing they're doing with their bombing is bringing us closer together and uniting us. That is the best thing we can do in order to fight them, she says.
Right.
So that's what we did back then.
Okay, Emma, you have any questions before we close?
Yeah, I'm curious. During the riots that you had, during your term, there were a lot of riots. A lot of people got killed. Did you ever feel at that moment? I know you feel remorse now, but did you ever feel remorse at that moment, or did you just see it as casualties that were necessary for the cause? That's my question.
Good one.
She says it affected me in a great deal, only I could not show that. I needed to be strong. I needed to show them that I still stick with what I believe in, and this is what's going to happen. You cannot hurt me. But when in my private chambers, I did cry a lot, and I did take it very personally that these people had died because of my beliefs.
Yeah. So you
So
felt
yes,
remorse
yes, she felt a lot of
and
remorse.
responsibility? You felt responsible for it?
She says yes, and she says maybe not a lot of people might know this, but every person who died during those riots, I sent a personal letter to every single family,
Wow.
stating my remorse, stating my regret that this had happened.
Would you have changed your policies if you knew that was going to happen, or were you still doing everything for the greater good?
I was still doing it for the greater good. I also accepted that these riots, it wasn't all me. It was the crowd who got
Oh, sure.
fired up as well. So
Sure.
it wasn't all me. I knew that. I understood that. But it still made me feel sad. It made me feel remorseful towards the families that were being stayed behind. So the only thing I could do was send them a personal written letter from me to express my condolences and to express my remorse for what had happened.
Is there any other little thing that we don't know about you? Remember, we asked Madame Curie, and she told us that she sewed a little teddy bear inside of her skirt. Is there anything like that you can share?
Well, she says, no, not really. I didn't have a teddy bear. She says, I did have a pearl necklace that was very close to. It was a necklace that was a gift from my husband when my twins were born. So I always treasured them, and they were almost like my lucky charm. They were my strength. So when I needed to do something big or make big decisions, or I had to really make a big statement or defend myself because I had to fight a lot, she says, in Congress, they were there. They were my strength, and they were. It's almost like they gave me superpowers. So that, yeah, they were very precious to me.
Well, thank you so much for agreeing to, be interviewed, and you've given us so much to think about, and so many powerful statements. I really am grateful.
She says, you're very, very welcome. It was an honor to meet you.
Thank you. All right. And I'll just say goodbye. Emma, take care of that cough. I hope you feel better. Erik, I love you.
He's saying, I love you, Mama. You know I do. I'm coming over right now.
All right, come over. We'll
He
kiss
says,
together.
I'm going to come sit on your lap. Be ready.
Okay, sounds good. I used to have a hard
He says,
time getting you to do that, especially after you were 17 and up. It was hard for me to get you to sit on my lap. But anywho, bye, Emma.
And that's because I was taller than you.
I know, yeah, that's true. Everybody is. All right, see you guys, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.